All right. Welcome. That is right. It is Justin and Donald Save America. Brand new episode here for you. We got new poll results, everybody. We, as you know, those long-time listeners know that we work often with Rasmussen Polling, and we put out some fantastic polls. I'll pat ourselves on the back for that one. Real banger polls that we've put out historically over the last few years. We got some good ones this year, or this time. We got some socialism results that should chill your bones, and we got some AI results that might chill your bones even more. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that and more on this episode of Justin and Donald Save America. Before we do, put that call out there, hit that like button, share this content, subscribe if you haven't already. All those things help break through those big tech algorithms that prevent content like this from being shown to more people. Justin Haskins, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm still recovering from our recent trip to the great state of Texas.
That's right.
It was a long week for me. I was there all week doing media. We were talking to lawmakers, but we got a lot accomplished.
That's true. And we were talking about artificial intelligence a lot. That was our shtick over there. It was really funny. We did a presentation at this conference talking about AI. And the main thing that everyone kept saying when they approached us afterwards was, that was some pretty chilling stuff. You kind of scared us up there, you know? And my response back to them was like, that was just our mild stuff.
It was our mild stuff. It was our intro course.
We were holding
it back. Was our intro course.
Yeah. If you really wanted to scare you, just let us talk for another 35 minutes up there.
Yeah, I think at some point we should maybe do an episode that's sort of like the presentation.
Sure.
Maybe we should do that.
I was actually thinking that maybe when it comes to artificial intelligence, especially because I'm so like back and forth on it in terms of if I think it's going to be some savior technology of the future or some horrible road to dystopian digital dictatorship, I was actually thinking like maybe we should have like a good news AI episode followed by like a bad news AI episode and just oscillate back and forth between the two. I think that would kind of help my headspace, but yeah, anyways, all right, let's get to it. We got a lot of results to cover here. So recently, we worked with Rasmussen, did another poll that's just was conducted, I think through Halloween into early November or something like that. We got the results back. This is a poll that we did, very similar to the last one in terms of the audience that we were polling. That is younger audiences. I think everyone that was polled was under the age of 40. We were really trying to see, especially when it comes to socialism, feelings about artificial intelligence, where the younger generations were kind of standing on some of these issues. So we're going to get into socialism. Our Stopping Socialism segment is probably going to be super long this episode, but we're going to start with AI. So, Justin, you had the theory that kind of undergirded this whole section of the survey. Do you want to talk about your AI strongman theory now? Do you want to reference it later? What do you want to do?
Yeah, no, I let's talk about it now. I feel like I have these ideas every once in a while. I get these like feelings, just the sense from polls that we do and people that I talk to or whatever. And then I like to try to confirm it with polling. And this was one of those ones where what I thought was going on does appear to be showing up in the poll results. I have this theory that younger people, especially, they really hate the existing structures and institutions that exist today. They think that they're completely, the system is completely rigged by these structures against them. Not in the sense that, they all got together one day as a conspiracy to screw over young people, but rather just these systems were built over time to benefit the people and institutions and special interests that were in existence. And so the younger people that come up into this new America that we're seeing today or they're at a disadvantage compared to everybody else. And so younger people feel like older generations don't listen to them. They feel like they've got kind of a bad reputation with older people. They look around and they see the cost of housing is very expensive. We're going to talk more about that later. They think that the economy is rigged in favor of big corporations and older people, boomers, you know, people who already have money. And they're having trouble getting jobs. They're saddled with debt. They don't have bad lives in the sense of like they're going off to war or they're all impoverished or anything like that. This is one of the wealthiest generations ever if you're looking at quality of life. But it's a generation that can't build wealth in a traditional sense.
Sure.
And it makes them feel, this is my theory, it makes them feel like they want someone to come in and just take the reins and get things done and fix these problems and take over the existing political structure, because the political structures we have today do not benefit younger people. And this is why they were attracted to Bernie Sanders. This is why they are attracted to AOC. This is why they like democratic socialism generally. This is why Trump, I think, actually did better with younger people, because he has this kind of take charge, not traditional outside the beltway kind of attitude. And I think that younger people just, they're attracted to that right now. They want a strong man. Okay. And so then I think they've been going in that direction for a while, but they haven't found a strong man who actually gets the job done. Every time they put one of these people into power, they don't actually do the things that they want, because the systems are not designed for dramatic change and transformation. They just aren't. It's really hard to get laws passed. It's really hard to make sweeping changes and fix some of these economic problems that are macro level, gigantic. You know, there's foundational problems with our economy and our monetary system and everything else. So now I think what's happening is they still have that strongman desire, but they're not finding a strongman around them. And so I think that AI is going to become that strongman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as people become more comfortable with AI, they're going to say, you know, if AI is smarter than everybody else, why isn't AI in charge? Like, they're smarter than all the people anyway. So why don't, and younger people are much more likely than older people to rely on artificial intelligence already. You know, they use it for life advice and for homework, and, you know, like they're already relying heavily on artificial intelligence, especially college age kids. And so my theory was that people would be open to just putting AI in charge of society. Young people would. That was my theory. And so we asked them, and that's what these poll questions show.
Yes, right. Yeah, there's a couple of things I would love to add on to that, but let's jump into it, and then we'll kind of hash it out a little bit here. So we got just 3 questions in this section, and they all start off pretty much pretty similar. It says significant advancements have been made in the fields of artificial intelligence and data collection, causing some to suggest that AI may take a more influential role in society. Many Americans are unhappy with the effectiveness of federal and state government officials, agencies, and politicians. If AI continues to improve, would you support a proposal to take power away from most human lawmakers and instead give an advanced AI system the authority to control the majority of public policy decisions? So the results, as you can see in this first column, this is likely voters again between the ages of 18 and 39. 20% strongly support this. So 1 in 5 strongly support this. 21% somewhat support this. So a little grand total there of 41% lending support to this proposal to put AI in charge of the majority of public policy decisions. Pretty high number, Justin, 40%. So were you thinking the number was going to be that high? Were you thinking it was going to be much lower? What were your thoughts? What were your hypotheses going into this?
I mean, I honestly didn't know what to expect, but I think this was probably on the high end of things.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I would have thought like 25% maybe would have been kind of like a what you could call like a good number, a number that's going to get some attention and stuff like that. I feel like we went way beyond that here.
Look at this. Look at
So
this. 49% strong, either strongly or somewhat opposed. So, because there's 10% that are not sure. So less than half, slightly, but less than half said no to this.
yeah,
That's another kind of crazy thing to think about for this question.
I know. My theory was confirmed by these poll results. I mean, that's the bottom line. Like I really genuinely thought there was a chance, that I got the sense that there were people out there that were very interested in using AI as a strongman. And then we got these results back and they seem to indicate that. I mean, we're talking about politics here, and AI is early on.
Yeah.
This is not like we're in this is the best that AI will ever be, so the trust in AI is highest. This is new, and the trust in AI is not that high right now overall. Wait 5 years from now, 10 years from now, these numbers are going to be off the charts. It'll easily be over a majority if we keep heading in this direction.
Yeah, right. This, what? We should put this in the folder of like questions that we want to be reoccurring in the future. Let's ask the same question 1 year from now and see what happens.
We should do that. Actually, yeah.
Yeah. And also keep in mind, Justin, as you're reacting to all of these results, that if the audience that's paying attention to this episode is anything like the likely voter totals here, there's a sizable chunk that are very sympathetic to this idea of putting AI in control of public policy making decisions. So just keep that in mind. Let's jump to the next one. Many Americans are dissatisfied with the U.S. Constitution and the Supreme Court. If AI continues to improve, would you support a proposal to revise the Constitution so that an advanced AI system has the authority to determine the rights that belong to individuals and families, including rights related to speech, religious practices, government authority, and property? Slightly less support than the previous question, but we got 15% strongly supporting this, 21% somewhat supporting this, giving a general support to this proposal of 35%, about 1 in 3, slightly over 1 in 3, actually. So very similar kind of concept as the previous question, but this one's a little bit more directly related to the specific rights and the interpretations of the Constitution. Basically, let's just take the Supreme Court and replace it with ChatGPT. What do you think about this one, Justin?
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, you would think that these ones would be, if you're willing to put like basically AI in charge of all of politics, you would think that this one would be just as high. And it isn't. So in one sense, that's kind of, but in another way, you just think, I mean, it's one thing to say, our tax laws and our traffic laws and stuff like that, that'll be made by AI. But it's another thing to say, our most essential rights will be determined by AI. That I think is very interesting, that's something. But I think it stems from this idea, this is lack of trust in these institutions, including in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And I think they just say, you know what, the Constitution, the Supreme Court, I'm like, I don't trust these things. And I just want something smarter and better to make the decisions. And I think fundamentally, this is going to be a massive challenge going forward. If AI is smarter than people, why shouldn't we listen to it? Mm-hmm. That's going to be the thing. Trust the experts. This is the thing we've heard for decades, especially from the left. Trust the experts. And so if AI is the ultimate expert, so why not just listen to it? Right. That's going to be the challenge going forward when we're protecting ourselves against, because AI is more likely than people to say, well, maybe you don't need that right over there. If we got rid of this right over here, the world would be a better place. Like the math says so. I'm telling you. And, you could tell me that I'm wrong all you want, but I'm smarter than all of you. And I say, this is what would happen. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to have people who say, this is what the science says. This is what the models say. If we just got rid of the Second Amendment, there'd be less Gun crime. See, we told you, or there'd be fewer deaths. We told you. More people would live. We've been saying this forever, and AI says, yes, we're right.
Right.
And who are we to say, no, you're wrong, we don't think so, right? That's going to be the norm, I think. I think that day is coming soon.
Right. All right, let's get to the last one here, and then we can broaden it out a little bit. So this one is just like,
I love this one.
What's the most preposterous thing that we could ask people?
I always, when we write these polls, usually the last question is the most absurd question of them all.
Right.
And this one is it.
And many times we feel like we probably didn't go absurd enough even when we do this. But military conflicts continue to rage around the world, including in Ukraine. If AI continues to improve, would you support a proposal to give an advanced AI system the authority to control all of the world's largest militaries with the express purpose of reducing the number of people who die from war? 15% strongly agree with that. Yes, absolutely put AI in charge of the world's largest militaries. 20% were like, yeah, I'm on board. All right, I somewhat agree with that. So the support, again, similar numbers to the previous one. 35% supporting a proposal to put AI in charge of the world's largest militaries. Stronger opposing one, 40% strongly oppose this. Again, that 9%, they're just like, yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe we should put AI in charge. But again, over a third of people responding to this saying, yeah, let's do it. Let's put AI in charge of the strongest militaries. It's kind of alarming results. Justin, there's at least one little crosstab that I want to mention here. And that is across the board. On all three of these questions, the self-described Republicans or conservatives, depending on how you wanted to break it down, were more likely to support these things on each one of these questions. So in this military question, we had 39% of Republicans saying, yes, I support that. And the conservative breakdown, which you would think there'd be more of an overlap, but that's a whole side thing. 49% saying yes to that. Going back up to the courts one, we've got 50% of conservatives saying yes, putting AI in charge, and 39% of Republicans. And then on that first question about basically policymaking, AI in charge of policymaking, we've got 46% saying yes to that, and a majority, 55% of self-described conservatives saying, yeah, put robots in charge. So I think there's basically two theories here. I think you touched on both of them already. One is this idea that the institutions are so broke. We have so little faith in these institutions already that why not just do something like this? Like it's basically similar to like the tear it all down, thing. Like just tear it all down, rebuild it, and if AI is in charge, so be it. It can't do worse than it already is. The other theory is maybe this idea that like AI is this objective standard thing. People think of it as like a calculator. This is just robots, programs operating off of algorithms. So if 2 + 2 = 4, then great. I trust a computer to get that right more than a human. So let's put it in charge of more important things. On that last point, there is definitely that's off base. We can go into that if we need to. I'm sure we've gone into that a million times on this show before, but it's not. It's a very subjective thing that's ruled by biases that are either passively aggregated from scraping the internet of data or, specifically put in there by these Silicon Valley kind of elite types that are building out these AI systems. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, are you shocked? I want to hear in the comments. Are you surprised by these results when it comes to AI and younger voters' willingness to put AI in charge of the most important aspects of our society? Or are you one of them that says, yeah, I want to? And if so, leave your justification in the comments. I'm very curious. Justin, final thoughts on any of these AI questions or anything like that?
No. We got a lot of other crazy things to talk about.
We absolutely do. So, as we are describing before that we also did a whole lot of socialism questions. So we're going to jump into our Stopping Socialism segment here. This is now, is this the second poll that we've done on a bunch of socialism things this year, or is this the third? I can't remember. I know we've done at least one other back in like May, but I can't remember if there's one at the beginning of the year or
On socialism.
Yeah,
I think this is the third.
okay. Yeah. So we've been doing a lot of socialism things. One of the predictions right after the election of Donald Trump that Justin made, probably on this show and other places, especially to me, was this idea that we're going to see a roaring comeback of socialism, and that the only way that the Democrats were going to be able to kind of take back some of those independent voters was to appeal to that populist mindset or rhetoric that helped get Donald Trump elected. So they were going to, what's a left version of populism? Well, democratic socialism. That's what it's called. So we've been focusing a lot more time and effort on socialism over the past several months than we probably have in the previous couple of years combined. So we've been doing a lot of these socialism questions and these when we collaborate with Rasmussen. And yeah, the results are shocking. So again, just to reiterate, these are poll results of likely voters between the ages of 18 and 39. So this is younger generations, and we wanted to pick their brains when it comes to socialism and the appeal of socialism, and basically trying to gauge where this is going to fall in the political landscape in the next coming election cycles. So, Justin, you want to tee it off with the first question here, or how do you want to approach this topic?
Yeah. So the first one, which really serves as kind of a foundation that helps us understand a lot of other questions. This, and we also asked another it's almost like a demographic question about who people voted for in the previous election. This helps us with the crosstabs to help us get a sense of how different groups are thinking and whether answers to some questions might be correlated to answers to other questions. That all makes sense as we go through this. But one of the foundational questions is presidential election 2028. Would you like to see a Democratic Socialist candidate win the 2028 presidential election? Keep in mind, this is only 18 to 39-year-olds, and it's likely voters. So not registered voters and not just people who are American citizens or just anyone who picks up the phone or whatever. These are only people who say they're likely to vote in the next election. And the numbers, as you can see, 51% yes, 32% no, 17% need to re-examine their lives. And 51% is interesting because we asked this exact same question a couple months ago, and we got effectively the same result. I think it was in September. The result was 53%, I think. So basically the same. That's within the margin of error. So it confirms what we had found before. Young voters want a socialist. Notice we didn't ask, would you be open to voting for a socialist? It's would you like it, it's not would you want them to be the Democratic Party's candidate? It's do you want them to be president?
Right.
Would you like it if they were president? That's the question. And 51% say yes, only 32% say no. So you're going to see throughout this poll, and other polls we've done showed the same thing. Socialism is popular. And some people might be inclined to think, and we'll see this when we get to the Mamdani questions, that socialism is only popular because people like the socialist candidates. But as you'll see in these questions, and this is confirmed by other polls we've done, actually younger people like the socialist policies more than they like the actual candidates themselves. So we found support for socialist policies that we talk about later were even higher than the people who said that they wanted a socialist to be president. So this is very, very bad. It's very bad, very disturbing. And, we can move on from there.
Right. Yeah. No, very, very interesting. I mean, if the whole election came down to just these people that answered our poll, like the Republicans would need all of the no votes and all of the not sure votes, and still
Or they would
need
need to
to
be a socialist.
yes, and still need to grab some people from the yes column. Like that's
right.
how stacked it is for these people that were polled. All right, how about this, Justin? When thinking about the list below, do you want to go in this question, or should we skip this one? What do you want to do?
No. Let's just keep going. We'll go in order.
Okay. So when thinking about the list below, which has influenced you the most to support democratic socialism?
Now,
Parents.
this was only asked to the people who said that they wanted to vote for a socialist for president.
Okay, great.
Doesn't say that in the question there.
Yeah, so parents, grandparents, church leader, teacher in college or high school, books, online videos or podcasts, television shows, radio shows, print or digital news publications, or not sure. And of all of those options, by far the most likely to influence you to support democratic socialism, according to this survey, is parents at 27%. Over a quarter of the respondents said that, which is a pretty big plurality or whatever, considering how many options there were. No other. I mean, the next closest was 17% online videos and podcasts. So yeah, having something at 27%, that's pretty notable there, Justin.
Yeah, and this was surprising. There's some other surprising things because we ask more kind of along these lines as the questions go on. But if you add parents and grandparents together, and I think they kind of should be added together, 34% say, that's 1 in 3 of the people who want a socialist to be president, say that their parents or their grandparents are the biggest influence. And then if you add books, online videos, and like, say, print and digital news publications kind of together. So basically like online, information plus, books, kind of higher level discussions of socialism and stuff, podcasts, that's the kind of thing you're thinking about, right? You get, what is that? About 33%. So if you combine that number with the parents and grandparents number, you're basically at 2/3. So 2/3 of the people in the survey who wanted a socialist, either it was a parent or grandparent that led them down that road, or it was them reading and watching material online. So those were basically the two, or our hardcover book. Like those were the two major sources, if you're going to summarize it. And what really surprises people who see these results is that teacher in college or high school was 4%.
Right.
Almost no one said that it was their education that led them down this road, even though most conservatives, and I would say even most socialist liberals, would say that's where most of the action is. It's in college, and
right?
It's
the
in
indoctrination factories, right?
Exactly, but that's not what they said. And so let's go down to the next couple of questions, because the questions after this are very similar.
Yeah. Also, confirmation that radio is owned by conservative voices and influence. That's been the case for a while, but it shows up in our poll there.
It is very, very interesting that that's the case. Yes. Okay. So then we asked. So you might say, well, why would you keep asking questions about this? Well, because we asked some more questions trying to dig into this, because what I wanted to get at was I wanted to see, okay, we ask you directly, socialist, why are you a socialist? But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the real reason you're a socialist. It just is the reason you think that you're a socialist. But can we find some sort of almost like hidden correlation in the data between people who say other sorts of things, and maybe they don't attribute that thing to being the reason, but in reality, there's a connection there, right? So we asked, is there do your parents, basically, were your parents or your parents or guardians growing up, how did they feel about socialism? And what you see here is a very high percentage of people said that, in their opinion, because this is, of course, an opinion, right? We're not asking the actual parents or grandparents or guardians themselves. It was, well over 50%. It was like 54% or something, right? So 50, I mean, we're talking about over half correlates pretty nicely with the percentage overall of people, 51%, that said they want a socialist to be president, right? Now, what's interesting about this is if you scroll to the right, go all the way to the very end, I think. We're looking for political, who you voted for. Not approval. Yep, right there. Okay. So we also asked who people voted for. That was a separate question that we're not going to go over here. But we asked who people voted for in the election. So what these numbers are showing on your screen here, if you're watching the video version of the show, is you'll see these percentages are the percentage of people who responded about their parents and their interest in socialism, their favorability of socialism, based on who they voted for. So the Harris column is the people who said they voted for Harris. And then here's how those people responded about their parents. Okay. 35% said that their parents really loved socialism or whatever the response was. 31% said they had a somewhat favorable view of socialism. 12% said somewhat unfavorable. 10% very unfavorable, right? So what you see here is this. If you were a Harris voter, of the Harris voters, add those two numbers, what is that? 66%. 2/3 of the Harris voters, the people who said that they voted for Kamala Harris, 2/3 of them said that their parents had a favorable view of socialism. Now, look at the Trump unfavorable numbers. Okay. That's 47%. So of the people who voted for Trump, 47% of those people said that their parents had a very unfavorable view of socialism. Right? So what I'm trying to illustrate here is that if your parents like socialism, and that's your perception, you are much more likely to vote for Trump. Much more likely to vote for Harris. If your parents don't like socialism, you're much more likely to vote for Trump. That's relative to other factors that we're looking at, okay? So there's a clear connection between the two. Now, you might say, well, that's not surprising. People often adopt the views of their parents or whatever. Okay, sure. But as we go into the next set of questions, you're going to see why this is relevant. So let's go back over, and then we'll go down to the next question. So this is the same kind of question, except now we're asking about teachers in high school, in school, any school, and college. Okay. It was 52% said favorable or somewhat unfavorable, very favorable or somewhat favorable, right? So very similar to the parents' numbers. Okay, so what we're seeing is young people, from their perspective, their teachers and their parents support socialism at roughly the same rates, which I think is a very interesting phenomenon, right? Unfavorability for socialism was actually lower. So it's less likely to have teachers who were openly unfavorable to socialism. Makes sense than the parents, right? Because they're more leftists on average in teaching positions than there are just parents in general. That was 26% unfavorability. So now scroll all the way over back down to the political stuff. Yep. Okay. Now, what we're seeing here is if you say your teachers and your professors liked socialism, of those people who voted for Harris, it was, what does that add up to there?
Like 61, it says.
61%.
62 over here, but there's point whatever. So yeah, 61 it says.
Okay, so 61%. Now add up the Trump number.
48, 49.
Okay, so now the reason that this is relevant, I think, is what this seems to indicate is that there are a lot of people who voted for Trump who also said that their teachers were socialists.
Sure.
And that seems to have had a stronger effect, or not as strong of an effect, your voting how you vote relative to your parents. So in other words, if your parents don't like socialism, you are more likely to vote for Trump. Then that relationship between your parents' views and your views is more important than your teacher's views and who you're voting for.
Right.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it just kind of confirms what we found in the first question, which said the number one reason why I went one way or the other was my parents or my grandparents. That was, if you add those two together, that's the number one response. So again, it breaks this narrative. You don't see a strong correlation here between teachers and their views and kids once they reach, voting age and their views.
Right.
You just don't see it. It's not that there's no impact. It's just not as strong of an impact as you would expect to see.
Interesting. That's very interesting. I that little cross tab though made me want to scroll back up to the next presidential election is 2028. Would you like to see a Democratic Socialist candidate win that? As we already said, 51% saying yes, 32% saying no. I gotta see who voted for Harris, who voted for Trump. So according to this, 78% of those that voted for Harris would love to see a Democratic Socialist win next time around. Not a surprise. This one should be a little surprising. 27% of those that voted for Donald Trump said that they would like to see a Democratic Socialist win next time around. That's a quarter.
Yes. And we asked we did this same thing in a previous poll in September. I believe it was September. And the percentage of Trump voters in that one was like 35% who said that they would sue. So it's actually, this one's better than the last one. So there is a sizable, this was one of the main takeaways from this poll and the previous poll. There is a sizable chunk of people who voted for Trump and who identify as Republican and who identify as conservative that actually want a socialist.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so hard for people to wrap their minds around. When you poll older people, that isn't what happens.
Right.
It's with younger people. There are people. So that what that tells you is people who are younger, who are voting for Trump or identifying as Republican, are doing it for reasons other than for economic reasons, like the economics of the economic ideology of socialism versus capitalism and all of that stuff.
Sure.
They're basing it on something else. And we don't know what that is, but it's clearly something else. Now, not across the board, because still most Trump voters don't like socialism, even according to this. But there is a sizable chunk of Trump voters and Republicans who say, yep, I want a socialist to be president.
Right.
And that is so disturbing.
Yeah, well, let's keep that in mind when we start talking about the housing stuff too. Let's race through these next couple.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We're running out of time. So let's do so the next one we asked about church. And we asked about whether, well, actually, sorry, no, go up one more. We asked about media and basically people's perception of media. It was very similar, 53%. You can see the same kind of numbers pop up over and over and over again. 53% say, yes, the media I consume leans socialist. The next one was, if you attend church, how do they portray socialism? This was the lowest favorability of everything, but It also didn't have a high unfavorability. It was just a lot of people don't attend church and churches don't seem very active on this issue at all, which is a whole nother set of things that you could talk about that have to do with church and whether churches should be talking about these issues and everything else.
Sure.
But that was just interesting, I thought. So let's get to the housing questions so that we don't run out of time.
All right. So this one, has the cost of housing in America reached a crisis level? This might be the highest percentage of any poll or any question that we had in this entire poll. 74%, basically 3 in 4 said yes, that housing has become a crisis in America. That's stark right there. I'm like, we should just rest on that just for a beat, because this is again likely voters between the ages of 18 and 39, and 3/4 of them are saying yes, it's a crisis.
And I'm willing to bet that it's very high for. So this is really interesting. Look at the ages.
Yep.
Notice that as the ages go up, you get into ages where you would like to be buying homes, right? The older you get, the more you want to buy a home, the more you think it's a crisis.
Yeah, an 18-year-old who's probably not even thinking about owning a home is like, I don't know, maybe no, I guess.
Same thing with 25 to 29, right? Because in our world today, people, when you're under 30, you're typically not buying a home. A lot of people are not. Once you hit 30, you're thinking about it now. Yeah. And it gets to 75 and then up to 81. Those are going to be your most disgruntled people.
Yes, that's
81%.
That's some shocking results right there.
Those are shocking.
And you'll know, I mean, we've actually been talking about this for a while, the idea of a nation of renters, in the future you'll own nothing, all of these sorts of concepts. We've been talking about this for a little while. And right now, you're starting to see attention being paid to this, where you've got certain proposals being thrown out there by the White House, the Trump administration. In my opinion, not the best proposals quite yet. But I think as these results kind of permeate the cultural zeitgeist, you're going to see a lot more momentum behind this issue and a lot more proposals from the left and the right to solve this perceived crisis of housing. Especially as elections, get nearer and everyone's jockeying to get as many of these 18 to 39-year-olds to vote for Team Red or Team Blue. So I think that this issue is going to be coming up a lot. And here's the evidence of it, basically.
Yep.
Zoran Mamdani, a Democratic Socialist, is currently the front runner. So this was obviously written before he won. He has now won. He is now the mayoral, whatever the term is, where you're not actually in power yet. Elect. There you go. Do you have a very favorable, somewhat favorable, opinion of Mamdani? So the majority, 52%, have a very or somewhat favorable impression of Mamdani. When it comes to negative, it's only 24%. So less than half of the percentage points that the pro side got. We don't need to do this. Let's just move on from that one. I think we've covered that topic enough. Mamdani's policy platforms include a proposal to create government-owned grocery stores to help reduce the rising cost of food. Would you support a law that would expand Mamdani's proposal for government-run grocery stores in every town in America? Well, 57% or 58, whatever, say, yeah, we support that.
Yeah, 58%. Notice that's higher. This is what I alluded to earlier. That's higher than the support favorability for Mamdani himself.
Yeah.
So they like his ideas more than they even like him. Now, the next question, go down to the next one. Another Mamdani policy question. Proposal to freeze rent in many of the city's apartments. That was a Mamdani campaign promise. And to build 200,000 new rent-regulated apartments. Would you support a proposal in Congress to make this nationwide, including the rent freeze? 62% support that. It's even higher. So now we're 10 percentage points higher than just favorability of Mamdani himself. And strongly oppose is only 12%.
Sure.
Now think about that. That is incredible. I mean, that's a remarkable. We're talking about a price control policy. This is a nationwide price control policy and a government housing plan. And only 12% of young people oppose that. Yes, I mean, very depressing. Now, this goes back to the housing thing. Okay, we're still on housing. This is super interesting. This is one of the smartest questions that I've ever come up with, I think. And I say that with as much humility as I can muster. Are you more likely to vote for a Democrat, Republican, or a candidate from another political party in the 2028 presidential election? This is a lead-up question to the next one. All right. So I just want to know, are you going to vote for a Democrat or a Republican? So then what I wanted to do was say, okay, I'm trying to figure out how important is housing to these people. So the next set of two questions are, we're going to ask the Democrats, the people say, I'm voting Democrat. We're going to ask them, okay, but would you be willing to vote for a Republican if they could fix the housing crisis? trying to see how important that is to people. And then we did the same thing to the people who said, I'm voting Republican. Okay, would you vote for a Democrat, though, if they could fix the housing crisis? And here's the results that we get from that.
Yeah. So would you be willing to vote for a Republican presidential candidate if you believed he or she offered the best plan to reduce the cost of housing? So this was only asked to Democrats, correct?
Yes, correct.
42% said yes. So theoretically, 2 in every 5 would swap their vote to a Republican if they thought that Republican had a better solution to solving the housing crisis. On the other side of things, would you be willing to vote for a Democrat presidential candidate if you believed he or she offered the best plan to reduce the cost of housing? Again, asked of the people that said they were going to vote for a Republican, 45% said that they would swap that vote. So 2 very sizable numbers willing to go across the aisle and lend support to a candidate that they might not otherwise support if they thought they had a better housing crisis solution.
Unbelievable. And this is the most, so we've been told, now whether this is true, I believe this is true. We've been told by someone who would know that this poll and the last poll have gotten the attention of the White House.
Yes.
And include at the highest levels. And now this question here, these questions here, you would think if you are in the White House, you would think this would be the thing that stands out more than anything else. If you can fix this problem, you can win over a lot of young people who seem like on the surface, you would never be able to win them over. And that goes for politicians on both sides. The young people are more, it's the most utilitarian type generation of any generation that America has had, I think, in a very long time. It isn't really about like ideology so much as it is, are you just going to do this thing that I think is the thing that we need to do? It isn't really tied to this grand overarching idea about like liberty or economics or philosophy or anything like that. It's, we have a housing crisis and we need to fix it. And yeah, I'd vote for the other side if they'd fix it. Like that's, if you ask older people that, they're not saying that. Mm-hmm. There's literally nothing that you could say. There's no way you could frame this question. You could frame this question any way you want. There's no way you could get my dad, who's in his 60s, now 70 years old. You could never get my 70-year-old dad to answer, yeah, I'm voting Democrat.
Right.
If they just did this thing. Nope, there's nothing. There's literally nothing. Not one single policy. Obviously, if the parties just switched everything they believed in, then yeah, that's different. But just one policy, there's no single policy that you could point to where he would say, yep, I'm switching. There's just no way. And I think that's true of most people that we know, who are above the age of, say, even 40. But in this group, no, it's way up for grabs. These people do not have strong ideological allegiances or strong party allegiances. What they want is just for things to be, in their minds, better. Now, that doesn't mean that they want the right things. I don't think these things are the right things.
Yeah, we just covered the government-owned grocery stores.
Right. Yeah, they love that idea. They think that's great. They think the rent freeze idea is a great idea. It's a horrible idea. If you want to limit the amount of new housing that's being built, that's what you would do. Freeze rent. So there's no incentive for people to build new housing. So it's not a good idea. But the point is, they can be won over one way or the other. And so that is a really, really important point for people to keep in mind, not just now, but going forward. This is we're talking about 18 to 39-year-olds. In the next 10 to 20 years, this is going to be the group that matters when it comes to elections. They're going to decide. And what they're signaling to everybody is, we don't like you Republicans. We don't like you Democrats. We like the Democrats a little better than the Republicans, I guess, but we'll vote for anybody who just will fix our problems.
Right.
And that is AI. Or AI. Or AI. Anyone or anything, any machine that's willing to fix our problems will do it. We don't care. Again, remember what I said before about the strong man. That's what we're seeing in the data. We have a generation of people who are open to just getting things done no matter what. And that is both, in some ways, it's a good thing. They're not so ideologically entrenched and hopelessly biased and stuff like that. In another way, this is very dangerous,
Right.
because they don't share the views that older generations of conservatives have shared. And by the way, Donnie and I are in this group.
Oh yeah.
Just to be clear, we are between the ages of 18 to 39.
Yeah, I got called. I took the survey. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah,
took
no,
it 1,500 times.
Yeah, the housing one, all of the housing stuff. Like I said, I've been shouting this from the rooftops for years. Even some of our own colleagues will kind of dismiss this and write it off as just these are just they're eating too much avocado toast, lazy generations, all of those sorts of things. But these are the perceptions, clear as day, and these are the things that are gonna move the needle come election time, whether you like it or not. So, Justin, there's one more question. Should we hit this one real quick before we sign off here, or what?
Yeah, we do it real quick.
Yeah. So this one is: do you think that your economic future and personal happiness level will be better or worse than that of your parents, or will it be about the same? So, better. 24% said better. 44% said worse. And 23% said about the same, but 44% said worse. So nearly half of those polled here think that they're going to be doing worse off in terms of personal happiness and their economic outcome.
And scroll to the right a little bit so we can look at the age differences here. And you do see a little bit of a gap here as well. Yeah. Older people within this group between 30 to 39, they're more disgruntled. They're more frustrated. They're not necessarily more socialistic, but they feel worse about how things are turning out.
That's right. Yeah. And once you lose like hope in the future, a generation loses hope, thinks that the future doesn't have, bright, shiny roads waiting for them, they're more likely to turn to that collectivist route. They're more likely to turn to that economic strongman, socialist leader, authoritarian types, even, to basically rechart that course moving forward. This might be actually, now that I reread these results, this might be the most chilling of the answers here, where you've got half of these people responding saying, I think it's going to be worse. I think it's going to be worse than my parents' generation.
And is it any wonder that the same percentage say just put AI in charge of all the policy making, and a little more than this are saying, put the Democratic Socialist as president. Let's just blow up the whole, existing economy. I mean, it shouldn't surprise anybody. We have to just listen to what people are saying where they're at.
Right.
And this is the biggest problem we have on the right, is there's so many people on the right who just don't want to hear it. And instead they want to just dismiss people's opinions and feelings and what they're saying and say, you shouldn't feel that way. You shouldn't think that way. You don't know how good you have it. That does not work. Right. Okay. It does not work. It doesn't work to tell someone who feels something, stop feeling that. You have no reason to feel that way. That doesn't work. Okay. Every husband in America knows this. You can't just tell people, hey, you're feeling the wrong thing. Stop. That does not resonate with people. And that's what conservatives have been doing for basically 10 to 15 years with younger people, at least. They've been saying, yeah, I know you're complaining about everything, but you don't have no reason to think that way.
All right, so we're going to wrap this up, but I do also want to put this note out here, because I know I can just anticipate the comments. None of this is an advocation of socialism. None of this should be an advocation of leftism, big government solutions, anything like that. Because I do think that if structured the proper way, free market solutions, unlocking the powers of a real, true capitalist system, and free enterprise, all of those things can help all of these people reach levels of prosperity that far exceed their parents. It all just has to be messaged properly, but that all first takes the requirement of basically acknowledging these issues. We have to acknowledge this. These are the perceptions out there. Don't deny them, acknowledge them, and work towards solutions that are more aligned with, free market, free enterprise, that sort of thing.
That's right.
So just putting that out there before everyone starts accusing us of being, secretly socialist or something like that. But Justin, final words?
We have a lot of work to do.
Yes, I know. We do.
That's my final words.
This should be a wake-up call. If you're still sleeping, you still think that we're going to coast of electoral victories in the next several elections or whatever, wake up. We got a lot of work to do. All right. Thank you all for tuning into this episode. Join us weekly where we put out new content about socialism, about emerging issues, artificial intelligence, emerging technology, all of that good stuff. And like I said, put some comments in there. Let us know what your reactions to some of these results were. Let us know other topics that you're interested in, that you want us to cover, that sort of thing. But yeah, join us next time. Hit that like button, share this content, subscribe if you haven't already. Go to heartland.org for more, good stuff. And Justin, where can people find you?
You can go to justinhaskins.com or find me at Justin T. Haskins on all the big social media networks.
Beautiful. All right. See y'all next time.